46 years.
3 beloved isles.
1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart.
The soul of the Cayman Islands.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you very much for joining us on another terrific Thursday's edition of Talk Today, as we have a special edition of our Mental Health Matters, generational change around sexual orientation and gender identification. Want to know and be a part of a discussion? Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thanks very much for joining us. And as we get into the discussion, a special thanks again to Dr. Alexandra Bond. I don't know how you do it, but thank you for helping us out. Good afternoon to you, Mom. Welcome.
No, good afternoon. And I know there's been a couple of changes in the schedule, but I'm really glad to be here, especially for this topic. I think that this is a really important one and a very timely one with everything that's been going on, and actually thrilled to have our guests here today. I'll let them introduce themselves, but lots of exciting events coming up in this area as well.
All right. Well, Ms. Raquel, if you would.
Yeah, so I'm Raquel Tobian. I'm a psychotherapist at Infinite Mind Care, and I'm also really excited to be here today, and I'm excited for this topic, so thanks for having me.
And good afternoon. My name is Noel Castle-Smith. I'm the founder and president for Cayman LGBTQ Foundation. As well, I am the CEO for the Cayman AIDS Foundation, so we do lectures on safe sexual health and teaching people how to protect themselves against STIs and HIV.
Right. Now, I don't know whether Dr. Bond, you want to introduce your intern?
Yes, and we've got our admin intern with us today as well.
So I'm Jade Barnard, and I'm interning at On Course Cayman, and I'm excited to be learning about new topics that are really important.
Right. Well, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, and I don't think you could be in better company with Dr. Bodden and her wonderful team over there. So, now, Ms. Raquel, when we look at the change in dynamic globally, no matter what it is, if it's the people talk about the geopolitical landscape, they see the socioeconomic implications. We're seeing so much, but yet basic humanity and sense and sensitivity, and just being sensible with respect to our interactions with each other, we seem to be taking some steps. I don't want to say even backwards, because that's probably not. But give us a perspective and where we are in after 2 centuries, 2020, 2021, 2 centuries of a changed world. No further aid.
Yeah, so I think this is a really important topic, talking about the history of LGBTQ folks throughout time, in part because right now it is a hot issue. It's a hot issue in Cayman. We hear a lot of people making comments about particularly our youth identifying as LGBT, and people are like, it's a trend, there's so many more of them coming out, like what's going on? And so I kind of wanted to just touch on that this idea that this is new and that this is something that, oh my gosh, there's just so many people identifying as LGBT, it's really not new at all. LGBT folks have been around since the beginning of time. We can look at basically every culture, every society, and we can see folks that identified as LGBT. It's also really interesting to know that how we think of LGBT folks now, and it being maybe not quite so mainstream or quite so accepted, that there were societies long before us where this was completely normal, where nobody would bat an eye at a same-sex relationship. It was just considered part of the culture, part of the norm. In Mesopotamia, which is our cradle of civilization, same-sex relationships were entirely common. We know that from the artwork that's depicted, from the literature that we have, and they were depicted as often as opposite-sex relationships. So it wasn't even just that they existed, it's like they were entirely common and normalized. And that's also true when we look globally across history. We have examples of this everywhere we look. In China, same-sex male relationships date back to at least 600 BCE. And they were normalized. They weren't looked down on. In fact, it was often the kind of higher class, the elite, that engaged in same-sex relationships. And it was considered totally acceptable. I could give you countless examples. Egypt is another one. Gender identity was extremely fluid in Egypt. Bisexuality was considered totally normal. It didn't draw, attention. It was just like being in an opposite sex relationship. And so, again, there are actually countless examples of this. I'm not going to run you through the whole history, but I wanted to mention that because this idea that this is so new, what's happening to our youth? And actually that's just that we live only in our own time frame. Right? We're all only on this planet for a finite amount of time, and that kind of shapes our view of these issues in the world. But if you don't know the history, you might think this is really unusual, this is so strange, when really history shows us that this has kind of always been here.
And with that, we see perhaps, as part of my preparation there, trying to get a gauge of people's perspectives. In the media, for instance, we see the portrayal, and then there was some saying, but it seems, as you said, to be prolific. You're saying that was just known through history. When statistics aside, when we look at the behavior of people and our interactions with one another, sometimes we don't see the historical perspective. As you said, we live in the now. What does that mean for us now? The impact that we have and the like.
Well, I think the impact of not understanding the historical perspective is that it leads to this idea that this is abnormal. It leads to this idea that there's this massive rise in people identifying as LGBTQ and people not understanding that. So learning the history, normalizing this, and saying actually, guys, this has always been here. And if we check our history, we know that. And that's part of fighting the stigma and the discrimination that's happening as well. Because one of the reasons this topic is really important is we know that LGBTQ folks are still highly stigmatized, still discriminated against. They're more likely to be victims of violence. They're more likely to experience homelessness. And none of that has to do with them being LGBTQ. It all stems from society being not accepting, rejecting, being stigmatized and discriminated against.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, as she's noting a lot of the trends that have gone on, I think it's important probably to keep in mind as well the trends that have led to a lot of the attitudes recently with a lot of the more conservative movements, a lot of the religious movements that have come up that have brought on, I think, a lot of the stigma. I know in Cayman especially, a lot of the religious dynamics is a big part of it, not only not understanding and it being less commonly seen in our society, but also kind of the religious underpinnings that from how people have understood them being interpreted in a way that is discriminatory against them. Because we've seen it in other areas as well, even with things like race, with biracial couples not being allowed, and that eventually came back to normality as well. So and psychology didn't really do much to help that. So on top of the religious movements, psychology then deemed homosexuality as a mental illness. It was actually diagnosable up until a few years ago. There's been a lot of changes in that and how we look at that. It's no longer a mental illness, and we've moved far away from that. because of the mental health issues that come along as well with the discrimination that LGBT, especially, well, any of the LGBT population face. So I think, that those are some of the forces that are working against these movements. And psychology is doing its best to try to step in now, but psychology was not much help for a while.
Yeah. Well, as we go into the break, Ms. Raquel, picked up on Dr. Borden's point relative to discrimination in groups, and you comment with respect to the LGBT community being so highly discriminated. Statistically, do we know how that would compare to, say, women or other ethnicities or even economic status or different classes, groups of people?
I don't have those stats right off the top of my head. I think Dr. Boden's going to pull some up for us. But, in general, we know a lot about the discrimination that happens with the LGBTQ community. We know things like LGBTQ youth are, I think, 1 in 4 are going to experience a suicide attempt, which is much higher than their cisgendered peers. And terminology is one of the things we're going to talk about, because with this conversation, there comes terms that maybe people are like, I don't know what that means. Cisgender is one of them. Cisgender really just means I look female, I identify as female, I am female, right? I'm a cisgender female. I was born female, I identify as female, I generally present as appearing female. That's what cisgender means, is that your sex assigned at birth matches your outward presentation and your felt sense of that identity. So cisgender is sort of like the norm, so to speak.
Okay. Let's pause quickly. When you come back, maybe we can start back in.
Sure.
Get some input from you as well.
Okay.
All right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Stay clean, stay safe, hey man. Reflection sells gallons of sanitizer for only $25. Buy 2 clip-on sanitizers for just $5. Reflections has the best KN95 masks or reusable cloth masks, and you can get 2 for only $5. Blue surgical masks and face shields are available for children and adults, as well as 10 and 50 packs of black surgical masks. Volume discounts available at Reflections, Jose's Rubus, Reflections Hemp and Tobacco, all 5 Liquor for Less locations, and Food for Less, open 24 hours every day. Don't miss the Liquor for Less incredible priced better markdown. Hundreds of fine from $2.99. Cases of ice cold below wholesale prices. Save $10 off liters of absolute exclusively at Liquor for Less. Prices so low we can't say them on the radio.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Ransomware, DDoS, malware, phishing. If you don't know what those mean, you're not alone. But if you aren't protected against those cybersecurity attacks, then your business is at risk. Don't leave your data or your business vulnerable. Get Digicel Business Protect. Simpler, smarter cybersecurity. Visit our website, www.digicelbusiness.com, to request a callback or call us now on 623-2499.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And of course, the phone lines are open if you want to share. But sometimes you just listen and draw alongside, and we learn a lot and be able to gain from what is shared as we talk about, generational changes around sexual orientation and gender identification. Dr. Alexandra Borden with her admin intern, she joins us, and at some point we'll get Miss Jade Bernard to share with us if she so chooses. Noel Cabaya Smith together with Raquel, Tobian. I think sometimes I want to say Raquel Tobian, no?
I like that.
I mean, I could be Italian, you never know.
Yeah. There I was going for West Bay accent. No, I find sometimes that life is beautiful when we bring, all of us together. And one of our physician friends from the HSA talked about this. So Callaloo in Cayman, and I love Callaloo, especially Cayman Callaloo. But no, we're in school together.
Yes.
We're I'm wondering what we experienced in school, how that was probably different from our parents and older siblings, and how that's different from maybe our children and grandchildren.
Coming from my background in school and so forth, school, I always knew I was different, but I tried not to show it as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you got the bullying and whatever have you at some stage, but it's sort of overcome. You get used to it and find ways of blocking it as you get older and you put yourself through school. I faced a lot of challenges, not truly when I was in school, but when I came out and started in the working environment. It was a struggle because you're around persons that are living their lives the way they see it's normal, i.e., persons in relationships, enjoying themselves, having fun, and there you are, trying to hide who you are, that you're not discriminated against, and trying to keep them happy. And it became a lot to endure after a while. And as a matter of fact, it became so heavy that, it comes to a point where you have a choice whether you're just going to buckle down and deal with it, which creates a lot of issues. Or a lot of times you think to yourself, what am I doing here? Not everyone is strong enough to face this head on and do what they're supposed to do. A lot of people take the easy road. Well, I shouldn't really say the easy road, but take the road of trying to end their lives. And I'm now seeing that coming up a lot of times recently. So for me, I just disappeared, left, and went away for 13 years to the UK. While I was there, and I keep telling people that the UK have made me a stronger person, but I think one of the main things that have made me such an advocate for my community here is my family. I'm not discriminated by them. My mom is a diehard Christian, but she's never once made me feel uncomfortable. She always say to us, whatever you do it respectfully. Don't do anything to embarrass or shame yourself or your family. And she's very supportive, and she's always told us growing up that as long as we do anything and we're right, she's right beside us. But if we don't, then we're on our own. So right after Ivan, I think that was 2004, homes got damaged and stuff, and I came home. And I sort of thought to myself, why am I running? This is where I'm from. There's no reason why I need to be running away from where I live. I should be able to live here and be who I am. At the end of the day, I always think to myself, and I've always said, when you see me, don't see me as a gay man. I'm a person, and I work and contribute to society just like anybody else here. And we're not trying to push our sexuality down anyone's throat. What I'm asking for is equality, to be able to live my life as who I am. Because, in fact, I keep saying, what does my sexuality have to do with me as a human being? I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just basically saying to you, I want to be able to live my life as a gay man in my country and be accepted. Now, a lot of people have gone through a lot of stuff over the years that I've been here. I've done a lot of things for the cause. I was the one that started the first drag show here way back when the living room was up and going. Didn't get any resistance with that. I've worked trying to help people in the gay community find themselves and that sort of thing. We did the first dinner drinks and drag through the Cayman A's Foundation in 2018. That was successful. So, for me, it's baby steps. You don't want to make people feel as if though they're being targeted, because if you put an animal against a wall, they're going to come out fighting. So for us, it took me a long time. I wanted to do Pride about 6 years ago, and I just thought it's not the right time to do it. But then after the same-sex partnership came in and these sort of things, I said, well, maybe it's time for us to move a little bit forward. And then we decided we were going to go ahead with it last year. surprisingly, we had no protesters or any of that. It was really good. People were expecting the worst when they heard gay pride. And I think that was part of the issue, because not understanding things creates a lot of problems. And some people just do not want to take the time to do the research to find out what things are about before they start lashing out at anyone. So for me, I have lived here since 2004 when I came back home to present. And I have to say that I have fit in to society here quite well. I've never been stigmatized, or I've never been threatened or anything like that. People accept me, and it all goes down to respect. You know, a certain degree of self-respect, a certain degree of respect to other people, because I keep saying to myself, I can't ask someone for equality yet exclude them from what I am trying to do. So in April of 2020, we decided to open Cayman LGBTQ Foundation to try and assist the community as best as we can. But even though it's a LGBTQ plus a foundation, we assist everyone. We don't limit ourselves to the gay community, because I think that would be disrespectful. Just last year, we did our school drive. We bought uniforms and stuff for kids that didn't have any. These were not people that were a part of the LGBTQ community. These were people that came to us asking for help. I couldn't say to them, you're not gay, so we're not giving you a penny, because that's not what we're about. We're here to help, everyone. We've did lunches, we've did snack drives for the schools, we've did so many things that included our 3 islands. And to me, that's more important, because, you want to show people that even though you're gay, you still have the general or the entire community at heart here. It doesn't matter who you are, what sexuality you are. So, since Pride last year, we've had a lot of people coming up to us asking us for help because they've been chucked out of their homes because of their sexuality. And right now we're struggling with finding places to put these people while they transition. And it's becoming more and more a thing. And, even for the transgenders, we cannot depend on the crisis center to help, because even though you're moving forward to becoming a transition, I should say, I think, you're still not considered female. So you're not allowed there. So this year, Pride, we decided we will be charging people to come in, which a lot of people did have issues with. But they need to understand as well that to assist the community, we need funds. So whatever money is raised from Pride this year will be going towards seeking a facility to help these people that have nowhere to go. So that is one of the main things. Awesome. And, I think Cayman has gotten better over the years as we keep going along. People are being more accepted of who we are. Of course, we're going to have the resistance from, other people and that sort of stuff. But in time, I think we'll hit our goal. But you can't expect to go from 1 to 100 and get results. You have to take time.
All right. We do have a caller joining us. If I would invite you to place your fresh sanitized, headsets on as you go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon. There you go. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. For those who wish to join us, the phone lines are indeed open if you want to call and share a thought. 949-837 or 1-800-534-TALK. See, there are false starts in life. Sorry, Dr. Boyd. Yeah.
Mr. Noel, thank you. I've not heard your story before, and I think that that's really helpful. A lot of the young people I've worked with that are, trying to figure it all out and that do identify, bisexual, pansexual. I think it's hard to find role models here and to find spaces to be able to talk about it. And I think parents as well get quite overwhelmed. So I think that's great. I think especially being LGBT and Caymanian can be particularly difficult for them because of the environment that's been in Cayman historically. So I really appreciate that. So.
Ms. Raquel, with that, because I was thinking you mentioned earlier terminology. And so I went through and I was looking at things and I thought, am I playing one of these new video games? Because if you don't know the jargon, if you're not familiar with it, it's like everything else. Help us with some of the terminology that may be unfamiliar with us.
Yeah, so I think part of what makes sometimes people are a bit intimidated by this conversation is, for a really long time, we had like 2 boxes. You're a boy, you're a girl, you're a man, you're a woman. We kept things on this binary, and it was really simple. right? And that, in fact, the problem with it being simple is that that's oversimplified, because so much of human sexuality does not occur on a binary. It doesn't occur either or. It actually occurs on a continuum. And so when we have that continuum, we start getting a lot of new terminology that comes into it, because it's hard to describe the full human experience using two terms, right? And so I think a lot of people are intimidated by these conversations, or it's hard to even engage in them because they're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what all this means anymore. So I just want to sort of like demystify some of that and talk about what some of these terms mean and some of these things you may be have heard. So one of them is gender identity. And gender identity is our felt sense of being male, female, or other. Some people have a gender identity that is just completely female. Some people have one that's completely male. Some people have one that kind of goes back and forth. And some people have something that's entirely different. It can be anywhere along this continuum. And all of that continuum is considered normal. And Dr. Bodden was mentioning earlier that, you know, psychology has had to kind of spend some time, mental health has had to kind of catch up with things. And so universally, every professional mental health organization agrees, everywhere along that continuum of gender identity, it is not a diagnosable mental illness, it's not pathological, it's not problematic, it's normal. So our identity is our internal felt sense of our gender. Our gender expression is everything that we kind of show to the world. So how we present ourselves, the clothing we wear, the hairstyles we have, all of that can be our gender expression. And again, for many years, we were like, girls wear dresses, boys wear pants. And it was really simple. And then society changed and we evolved, and people's gender expression can be really fluid, right? Sometimes maybe I want to dress like kind of a girly girl, you know, I want to put the dress on and the heels, and I want to do the hair and the makeup and all of that. And then other times I'm like, no, give me a pair of baggy sweatpants and a hoodie. And that's just how I want to go out of my house and dress that day. And so gender expression is fluid for people. It does change, but most people have like some sense of male, female, masculine, feminine, that they kind of present themselves to the world. There's also who we're physically attracted to and who we're emotionally attracted to. And I bring this up because this is our orientation, right? When we're talking about who we're attracted to, that's our sexual orientation. But we have physical and emotional attraction in that, and sometimes those things are different. So for many people, all of this will line up, right? Our cisgender folks, that word that I was like, that's probably a term that many people aren't familiar with. Those are our folks where it's like, I'm attracted to man or men, I identify as female, I look female, and everything kind of lines up in this way that's really easy for us to understand on this binary. But again, that continuum says that anyone can fall anywhere along these different types of identity, expression, and orientation. The last piece of all of this to kind of throw in the mix is sex assigned at birth. So many of us, as infants, that's how they decided whether or not we were boys or girls. They looked at our genitalia and they said, congrats, you have a girl, congrats, you have a boy. However, for many infants, they're born intersex. And what that means is it means their genitals might sort of be a bit of both. It might not be incredibly clear to a physician, even though for many years physicians just kind of decided what they thought was best. Sometimes that led to infants having surgeries unnecessarily. And then sometimes those infants developed into adults who then had gender dysphoria because their felt sense of who they were didn't match their biology. So that might seem like something that's pretty uncommon, but it's actually like 2% of our population is born intersex, where it's not just completely clear whether or not we would say, oh, this is probably a female or this is male. And that is to say nothing about the biology of our chromosome abnormalities and how those might show up for us as well.
And with that, just for clarity, when at birth the physicians and all the attendants look at it, that is, it's observations, their physical appearance, and then they decide, well, we're not quite sure, but it looks more That's what we're talking about. And it's 2% over 8 billion.
2% of our population. So 2 out of 100 people are born intersex. And like I said, historically for years, the thinking was just, we're going to make the best decision we can as a physician. Sometimes they didn't even tell the parents. Sometimes they would just have these surgeries, make their decision as, a surgeon, as a physician. And whether or not that was right or wrong, no one really knew, because an infant can't vocalize to you or express any part of this.
All right. Just allow us to pause quickly, take a quick break. We have a call or two. We'll get to that as well. Thank you so much for being a part of the discussion. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
The Health Services Authority's new pharmacy is now open at the Smith Road Medical Center. The new location features a large, comfortable waiting area and ticketing system to improve the patient experience. All uncollected prescriptions and refill requests previously submitted will now be available for collection at the Smith Road Pharmacy. Request your refills online at hsa.ky via WhatsApp 925-6532 or call 244-2715. For more information about our pharmacy hours, visit hsa.ky.
Commission for Standards in Public Life reminds all persons subject to the Standards in Public Life Act that declarations are due by 30th of July. If you're struggling to complete your annual declarations of interest, the Commission for Standards in Public Life has a new tutorial video available to provide further guidance. Visit Standards in Public Life Commission.ky/register of interest to view the tutorial video today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us as we talk about generational changes and sexual orientation. And gender identification. We have Dr. Alexandra Borden, we have our admin intern, Mr. Jada Bernard, together with, you want to say it how I say it, or Ms. Raka? You say it, Ms. Raka. And Noel Caso Smith. Hey, thank you for letting me laugh. Some days, because of the rain or because of the broiling sun, you don't feel like laughing as much, or sometimes you laugh too much. But it's good to be in good company and to learn to listen, and hopefully, my presence and presentation is not just respectful, but receptive. I'll invite you to join me as we go to the phones and join this caller. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you all doing today?
Very well. How about yourself?
Great, thanks. I didn't catch the very beginning, so I actually don't know who your guests are, but I heard a bit of the conversation. Is there an organization they're representing, or individuals, or what?
Well,
both.
Oh, yeah.
Two of us are practitioners, and then we've got Mr. Noel here as well from the LGBTQ Foundation.
Okay, I didn't hear the first one, but anyway. I just wanted to make two quick comments, and I'm not going to get into obviously it's a very touchy subject, literally. I'm not going to go into the religious side of it, which is, I guess, a big concern for you guys. But the intersex thing is that's also a new one for me. But even so, hearing how you described it, I would suspect is more than 2%. But I'm not going to go into that one. The area I wanted to touch in is the cultural context, which needs to be considered, because we have people in Cayman, as we like to say, from over 140 nationalities are here. But guess what? Many of those that are here have worked in Dubai, have worked in Africa and Europe and all over the world, China. And everywhere you travel, there's a cultural context. And I wouldn't expect to visit the Vatican in Rome and see people wearing bikinis or, halter tops at the Vatican, right? So whoever's the group or the special interest group or people or whatever have to respect that Cayman is a traditionally conservative country. We have our faults like every other country, but we traditionally have discussed our sexuality or issues privately. We don't like things being forced on us. We tolerate any legal expression, but the cultural context has to be borne in mind, because if you go to certain countries and you don't wear a burqa, or if you have your hair or your face exposed, you could be thrown into jail just for that. And the other example I like to, this is not sexual, but the other example I like to think of sometimes is many countries that foreign workers go to, they cannot speak their home language. They have to speak the language of the country. And of course in Cayman, we don't observe that. I've heard workers speaking to each other in multiple different languages, to the point, honestly, that sometimes it's offensive, especially if you're being served by them. I would think it would be courtesy to speak the local language. So whatever is your cause, I just urge you to consider and remember the cultural context. So I'll leave you with that today.
Thank you, Colin.
Hey, thanks very much, man.
No, thank you for that. So I'm a psychologist. I own On-Course Cayman. And so and I am Caymanian as well. And I will say that that this is newer for me as well. I grew up here, grew up in the church, but this is something that affects all of us. And in my work as a psychologist, I see this impacting especially the young Caymanians, which is why I think that this is a really important topic and why I bring in people smarter and better versed in this area than myself. Because what we have found, not only in my work with the young people, where they're struggling to figure out, these feelings that they have. While in Cayman, we've always just kind of shunned it, pushed it down. I know a lot that have experienced a lot of bullying from either differences in sexual orientation or differences in gender identity. They are exposed to, especially the media from overseas. They are better versed in this than we are. And this is something that that is important for us to be mindful of. And I think a lot of us are figuring out how we can embrace persons with different lifestyles that are also able to be welcomed into the Christian culture. And I think that's a big thing, to see how this is going to work for Cayman. And I will say I do appreciate how Mr. Noel has brought in, a lot of advocacy in the community and a lot of awareness, but I think also done it in a way that's been very open and respectful of Cayman and our history. And obviously he's Caymanian as well, and I think that that's really important. So this is something that, Alex Panton Foundation as well has looked a lot at this. They've run focus groups with the young people, and a lot of our young people that identify differently, either by gender or by sexual orientation, are at higher risk, not only for bullying, but for mental health difficulties. I've seen severe depression, severe bullying, severe anxiety, suicide attempts. And so these are big things that are affecting us. And so that's why I thought it was really important for us to have this conversation. And yes, Cayman will have to figure out how this is going to work. And I know Cayman has made a lot of progress over the last few years. And I do think figuring out how this will work in Cayman is important, because just like everything else, we can't just take laws and initiatives from overseas and transplant them here. That doesn't work. But I do think that Cayman, being so small and being so diverse, but also so cohesive from our culture and our history, that it's an opportunity for us to really make the most of this and to make sure that these youth are incorporated as we go forward, and that we support all of our Caymanians moving forward. So that's why I think that this is really important. But I agree. Our Pride Parade, as Mr. Noel and I were talking before, looks different than some of the other ones, as does our carnival because of our culture and our history. I know a lot of other places, they come out a lot differently. So I think that Cayman will figure out what this is going to look like here as well.
I mean, I understand what the caller is saying when he says, because at times I'll go into Price Right and I'm standing there and it seems like I'm not in Cayman because everybody is talking in their different languages and whatever. I get it, and it does annoy me sometimes when you're out somewhere and you're dealing with people and they're talking to each other in different languages and stuff, because we're an English country and you have to take an English test to come here, so to speak. But as far as our culture and stuff goes, I understand what the gentleman is saying. But at the same time, I look at it from a different perspective, because why should I have to suppress myself to be who I am? I'm not asking anyone to change the culture. I'm just asking to be accepted. I don't have to walk out there and prove to the world that I'm gay, because that's not what it's about. I just want to be accepted that when I go out there, I don't get verbally abused, stigma or discriminated against, and live my life as a Caymanian. So, I'm not saying to everyone, we have to change our culture for this, we have to change our culture for that. We just want to be a part of what's going on and be accepted, is the way that I see it.
As we go into the break, you can discuss it after if you wish. I know a lot of us have left Cayman for different reasons. You want to talk about that when we come back?
Yes, please.
All right. Let's pause and take a break, and when we come back, more talk today.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Cayman Islands Seafarers Association informs all members that there will be a general meeting on Tuesday, July 19th at 7:30 p.m. in the Seafarers Hall, 11 Victory Avenue, Prospect. Bus pickups will be from the usual spots in the districts, and East End pickups are at school parking, gas station, and wreck of the 10 sails starting at 5:45. Northside pickups at Chisholm's store and soccer field starting at 6:15. Boddentown pickups at Lorna's gas station at 6:45, Savannah pickups at gas station at 7 o'clock, and West Bay Town Hall at 6 p.m. In international news, Boris Johnson has quit as Conservative leader, saying it is clearly now the will of Tories MPs that there should be a new leader. He pledges to stay on as Prime Minister until a successor is chosen, but a growing number of Tory MPs say he has to leave Number 10 now. Johnson assured Cabinet this afternoon he would only act as a caretaker Prime Minister while remaining in position. Residents of a community in the northwest Nigerian state of Katsina say a Nigerian military jet has fired a missile on civilians while it was supposed to be targeting armed gangs. At least one person was killed and more than a dozen others are being treated in a hospital. The Nigerian military has not yet commented on the alleged attack on civilians. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Subway is giving you flavor around the clock with the new Chicken Squad sandwich options. Try the classic chicken and bacon ranch, the sweet and savory barbecue chicken, or the chicken cordon bleu. 3 new appetizing and delicious sub options that you can also make into a wrap. The Chicken Squad is available at Subway for only a limited time. Subway, giving you something to cluck about.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome, Mike, and thanks for joining us in our discussion. Generational changes, around sexual orientation and gender identification. Still a doctoral thesis. With that, Dr. Alexandra Borden, who always, so graciously provides her time for almost all of our programming, especially the month of mental health matters. Our wonderful admin internist Jada joins us, and we have Noel Kayaso Smith from Cayman Foundation, and also now President Noel would be the correct.
Yeah, president and founder.
Founder, okay, president and founder. All right, and I think as we look at the idea of the growing changes in our community, it's good to be at that public discussion. And of course, Mr. Galtaway joins us. We do have a caller. I was thinking of saying something first, but let me take the call. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Good afternoon, Sir Thomas, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I just started listening a short while ago, and I started getting the urge to call. I don't know exactly what your subject is, but what I'm calling about is the worthless, vulgar, I would say illegal way that these functions on the streets of Georgetown or West Bay Road, whatever, seem to perform almost naked on them, and it's accepted, and it's frightening to see the people that accept it. I never heard anybody calling in to say anything about it, or never heard anyone commenting, other than my wife told me recently when she went into one supermarket or one store that the way two or three people were dressed was not even appropriate to be on the beach, much less in a supermarket or whatever. So I'm wondering, how far will this be allowed to go? We're supposed to be a Christian nation. Unfortunately, we're losing that, or lost that dignity for some time, I believe now. But no one seems to be speaking out on this. And if people say nothing, it will continue. Everything wrong will continue as long as people shut their mouths up, no say anything. I'm going to open mine as long as I got 2 drops of blood running through my system. So people may like me or not. When it comes to this kind of thing, they don't have to like me. But I will speak out whenever I see or hear of something like what's going on in our little island, which I'm trying to help to preserve. But it seems like everybody's going crazy when it comes to LGBT situation or any way of performing naked or half naked or 3/4 naked, whatever the case may be, in the streets, and even allow them into the stores. When are we going to try to do anything about this? Can you tell me?
Well, I guess a lot of changes in that regard, Mr. Tommy. Anything else you want to share, sir?
Okay. I want to see something about it.
Excellent. Noel?
Yes. Last year when we did the Pride Parade, I put a PDA rule in place, and I really got flagged through the media for that, saying that shouldn't have done that. People should be able to do what they want to do. And my response to that basically was, just because you're a part of the gay community doesn't mean that you have to be respectful. I have always carried myself respectfully, and I will not have it any other way under my organization. People have the right to do what they want to do. And I don't see where people dress half naked and carrying on like they have no common sense has anything to do with a pride parade. A parade is basically a t-shirt, respectable pair of shorts or pants. You can wear your colors. You could go out there and you do the march. For the first time ever, we had the premier, we had the opposition, we had the governor marching with us. This year, we have the deputy governor, we have the premier once again, we have the opposition also marching with us. And I think respect is due to anyone. I don't agree with what I saw went on in the other carnivals that went on, but at the end of the day, I'm not there to judge them. Each to their own. I personally would not go out there and do it. And like the gentleman said, a lot of them was dressed inappropriately. But it is what it is, and it's been happening for years with no one saying anything. So, at the end of the day, that is down to the organizers and the government, whatever they will and will not allow.
And community acceptance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I can't judge them because I don't want them to judge me. So, it's up to what they're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that draw me to where I am today is that up till today, I could say there's a lot of Caymanians that are fleeing here, going to the U.S. and going to the U.K. to live their lives, to be who they want to be. I was one of them. And this is why I'm fighting so hard, because I don't think anybody should have to leave their country of birth to be who they are, to be accepted. And this is why I'm fighting so hard to make this change. And I will continue to do so, but I will do it in a respectable manner. I'm not going to go out there and be disrespectful, because being disrespectful also not only tarnishes me, but the organization as well. And we don't want to portray that sort of an organization out in society. So whenever we do things, we are very much mindful of how it's done. And then people have the choice whether or not they want to. Of course, I've got a lot of verbally bashing about the PDA rule again this year. And I said to a lot of them, I said, listen, if this is what you want to do, you have 2 carnivals before mine, go there and get it out of your system. But as long as you want to join the parade, there are my rules. Any organization that you go into have laws, rules, and guidelines. You like it or you don't. You have a choice whether you want to participate or not. So if you don't want to participate because of my PDA rules, then obviously it's your choice. But at the end of the day, we have organizations like accountants, lawyers, law firms, these sort of things. And if we carried on with that sort of behavior, we would lose their respect in the end, and it would cause a massive amount of problems for sponsorship and stuff with us. And we just don't want to do that. And I'm not basing it on a dollar value. I'm just basing it on they join with us because of how we portray ourselves when we're out in the community.
Mm-hmm. We do have another call, Ms. Susan. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling. Hello, good afternoon. Okay. Well, with that, and I recognize the caller's point, and that's your response, or respect, biggest respect, or display, publicly or privately, or sort of a presentation, as it were. And maybe to the gentleman who called prior, is that part of the challenge within the Cayman community, that sometimes we do not appreciate where we are. The importance to advocate for something to combat injustices, there can be a much more informed, respectful way to do it.
I mean, I remember growing up, I'm old, I'm in my 50s.
Hey,
but I remember years ago when Miss Anna Hulda Baden, I don't know those of us that remember her, people couldn't come off the cruise ship with a bathing suit, a bikini on, because she would kick up against it. That was how strong we felt about the way we carry ourselves. But things have relaxed so much now that, to where we are today. But even if there are no laws preventing what has been happening, I think self-respect should be enough for you to carry yourself.
Is that the societal norms are shifting?
Yes, they are.
There was a time when drinking alcohol on the street was frowned upon, no matter what. But it seems to be common amongst everyone. When you go away, there's a people who leave from one space to the next and take not just the open container, but very much, what they're drinking as they go from one to the next. So is it then, as we point fingers, perhaps we need to point within and ask, what is our norm? What is the societal value?
Well, I think alcohol has a lot to do with the behavior. In our parade, there's no alcohol before or during the parade.
Yeah, I was, okay, fair enough.
There's no drinking allowed at all. You want to drink when we get to the festival grounds, it's up to you. But I don't see the point in being intoxicated on the road for anything like this that I'm putting on. There's no need for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we provide sodas, Gatorade, Lucasade, water until we get to the grounds, and then from there you can have your alcohol beverages.
Can we ask, perhaps, maybe start with you, Noel, from that perspective. Our youth, you referenced that earlier, and I wonder, statistics aside, to what extent we're understanding the impact of our youth, even our very young people?
Well, for me, for a Pride Parade last year, we couldn't have children participate, although a lot of parents wanted to bring their kids. But because of COVID and restrictions from the Ministry of Health, we couldn't do it. This year, a lot of parents did ask, and we agreed that they could join us
with their
this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I think no child is born with hatred, stigma, or discrimination. That is something that we have been instilled as we grow up. So if we can teach our kids to accept different people for who they are, then I think it'll make a huge difference when it comes to the next generation.
Mm-hmm. And that discrimination, that abuse, that stigma that we see in our society, help us to appreciate it. Is it something that people don't understand how rampant it is? I mean, what is your thought?
It's kind of hard to pinpoint because working for the AIDS Foundation, when I first started there, first thing I was told is that you must have AIDS because you work there. That's one of the things. Then you had heard you got AIDS because you're gay and all these sort of things. So it's always been there. Even to today, our voluntary groups and stuff that we have for the AIDS Foundation is bare minimum because we had 36 people joined 1 year. And within 2 weeks, we're down to 7. All we heard were, people are saying we got AIDS because we joined. I got to think of my family, and, we can't volunteer anymore. And it's a shame that that level of stigma and discrimination is there that prevents people that want to help, prevent the numbers in HIV and AIDS in the island. And we need to get to a point where if you don't understand something, find a foundation that can explain it to you. Just don't stick in your head, AIDS, HIV, whatever. A lot of people, we did a survey and people didn't even know the correct answers how HIV is spread. Mosquitoes are one of the funniest things that people came back with, So knowledge is the key to everything, and ignorance is bliss. And people just, if you don't understand something, ask before you start bashing people.
Yeah. I think that one of the big difficulties is that the discrimination is so normalized, and I think that that's what we are seeing, a shift away from that over the years, at least since I've been home the last few years. To where, and it's difficult because you get it from the religious conservative side, but also the dance hall culture we deal with here. So, I've had friends that have come to the island, so one who was gay, and he found he couldn't really be accepted anywhere because at the clubs there's discrimination there, and then a lot of the other organizations are run by churches, and so it was difficult. So I think it's hard. So we've seen a lot of this with like the gender violence movements, with things like rape culture and rape jokes and victim blaming, and so we've trying to shift some of the perspectives around that. We've seen it with mental health, with thankfully for Mental Health Matters, we've been able to bring a lot of these conversations to the forefront. Mental health I've heard referred to as the no casserole illness because people are afraid of mental illness, and so I think that a lot of it is just understanding and taking the time and being open to getting the information and hearing from it. And if it is that you're nervous about it, and I actually shared before the show that, I sometimes get worried about the right language as well. But if you ask, a lot of the young people I work with, I've learned tons from, and if you're willing to ask and willing to share, then you can learn a lot about it. And that really helps to break down those barriers. You don't have to be perfect in everything, but definitely asking. But I think that it is going to take a move away from the normalization of discrimination.
Only if it's okay, Ms. Jada, if you want to jump in.
Sure. You were talking about discrimination and people just not understanding how to use terms and jokes as well. I've definitely seen it around school, just in the community, of people making simple jokes that you wouldn't necessarily think of it as homophobic or something like that. But I've seen it and know how it affects people. But I think definitely as part of the Cayman youth, and also I've traveled and seen how it's different in different cultures, it's important to have support, and I know there's gender sexuality alliances, and just I think because of the generational changes, I haven't necessarily seen my grandparents talk about these kinds of issues as much. They'll just mention, oh, I know this couple who are gay, and that's as far as it'll go. But definitely within my generation, I'd say we're more open to kind of having those discussions and just being able to talk to our friends about it and see how things have changed from the past.
And in the Cayman context, two questions, if you wish. One, to what extent do you think outside influences through the media, travel, and the like impact our youth, not just our society, but our youth? They're bombarded by so much. To what extent do you think that impacts them?
Yeah, there's definitely gender roles. So as Ms. Raquel was talking about the expression, I think through the media, and there's movies, there's songs, and just how your family, and obviously we've talked about religion and culture, how that raises you, it impacts whether you think that, whether it's acceptable or not, and also just how somebody is able to present themselves or think, I'm able to do this because it's widely accepted, or they'll be discriminated against because of how they act or behave.
Okay. We do have, sorry, Ms. Raquel.
I was going to say, can I add one thing real quick to that? You know, as we're talking about this and the discrimination that's happening, I just want to point out that, you know, part of the reason we're bringing this conversation is we're talking about the increased rates of suicide, of depression, of anxiety, and acceptance is one of the protective factors, specifically from people's families, communities, and schools. So one of the ways that we protect our youth from the depression, the anxiety, the potential for suicide is by having families that are open to understanding, open to trying to accept their child, and also schools and communities that are doing the same.
I appreciate you jumping. I was going to ask, you know, and we'll take the call in a second. Recognizing 2020, 21, and even now, that impact that all this has had on all of us, but especially our youth, there's so much that is affecting them. I mean, they're struggling with a lot, just being young. I mean, I know what it's like. You know, I'm an adolescent. It's just young, right? So we know how what are we doing to help them, to get them to a space? And maybe after the caller, we can probably ask about some of those things. Let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling. Hello, good afternoon. Yeah, hello. Okay. Sometimes our phones, we pay the bill. It's a free call, but we pay the bill. I mean, you know, government has anyway, let me not try to make a joke. I wanted to ask Ms. Raquel, because I think that level of acceptance and understanding, not shared by public, and thankfully you have a home environment that's very much like, you know, the ones that some of us have. Your parents will say to you, you know, I won't give you right for wrong. You do wrong, you know, I'm going to be the first one to get on. You do right, I'm going to stand with you. I wonder to what extent we have that in our society.
I think it varies widely. You know, as Dr. Bodden mentioned, religion is often one of the things that is used to say, oh, this is wrong, this is, you know, this isn't okay. And yet we have many people who identify as Christian. You mentioned your mom is a devout Christian, and they find this way to accept other people. So there are ways that we can build acceptance regardless of our personal belief systems. And sometimes it's just knowledge. Like, knowledge is power. Knowing that this is normal, that this is common, that there's nothing wrong with your child or with your friend because they identify differently.
Right. Can I ask then, go back to the comment that we made earlier. We were saying, oh, that's a child, it's just a phase. And we, as people go through different phases, you know, there's a time when I wore my hair long. I mean, can you believe it? Right? And the best thing is, if you're a loving, caring, supportive person, is be there just to make sure that there's no self-harm, there's these things. So how do we get into a space where we're helping to navigate, you know, that young person's sort of phase, or genuinely that struggle? And the word fluid, is another interesting term. Raquel?
Yeah, so the idea that, like, gender issues are a phase, which is sometimes a thing that we hear, honestly, it really depends on the age of your child, and you have to think about development. So when we're talking about small children, like pre-adolescence, right, they do all sorts of things. They don't have any thoughts about their gender identity, their orientation. It's not that they don't express it, they do. But this is not something that children are commonly thinking about or worried about. When those kids are sent to a therapist or a behavioral health professional, it's almost always because their parents are worried. And the answer is, don't worry, this is normal. Your kid may or may not grow out of this. One of the things we do know about kids, though, is so littler kids, when they are typically expressing a gender that doesn't match their biological sex, most of them will grow up to be cisgender adults, right? They will identify as male, they'll have male parts, that's their gender identity. They are more likely to be LGBTQ, though. However, it's a bit different once you hit puberty and adolescence. So kids that feel like they're a different gender in puberty and adolescence, that is much more likely to persist well into adulthood, and they're much more likely to identify as transgender. Again, that's not universal. It's not across the board. There's variation in that. And the reality of the term fluid and gender fluid, some people are yeah, sometimes my gender identity kind of changes a bit. My felt sense of being male or female slides along that continuum. Just like our gender expression can be fluid and changing, right? One day, like I said, I wear the dress and the heels, and another day I'm in sweatpants. And I'm looking maybe more masculine when I go out. And I'm going to say stereotypically so. But those things, that fluid is the idea that we do shift and change, and some people more than others. And that, again, that's all still normal.
But I've always said as well, especially to parents that want to remove their child from their home because of their sexuality. There's good and bad in everything that you do, and there's good and bad out there. And if you have a child, I think it's best when the child is deciding, what or where they want to be in life, is to have the guidance from their parents and the support, that to go out there and seek information from others, because you're not sure what information you're going to be told. And at the end of the day, it's still your child, even if you exclude them from the home. And I go back to say, I think instead of doing that, it's best to try and seek some type of counseling to give you the information that you need. And this is why the center that we're trying to build is so important, because I think we need a hub for the foundation perspective, that if people want to come in to get literature information, if they want to speak to counselors, we're able to to support them with that. If they just want to come in to have a word, or for whatever, they have a location where they can actually come to for that sort of thing. And this is why we're pushing so hard this year to raise enough money in order to do that, because that's important.
I think we do have one final call for our segment. Hey, good afternoon, welcome, thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey, welcome, and good afternoon.
Okay, and good afternoon to you guys.
Afternoon.
Hi.
Yes, I was listening to you all speaking on concerning homosexuality. And I heard you all saying certain things such as it's normal, people are born that way, and actually encouraging people in a way to choose that lifestyle. And in the eyes of God, it's not right. So no matter what excuses you all bring up, it's not right in the eyes of God. And this LGBT march that is in the road, when children see that parade going on, and they ask their parents what that's all about, what will the parents have to tell their children? You all should be ashamed of yourselves and stop encouraging this foolishness about people being born this way. It's either a choice you make in life, or it's a curse that has fallen upon you. And either or either.
Sir, can I ask you a question?
Well, let me finish. You can talk all you want after I finish. Okay? But in the eyes of God and Jesus Christ, there's no excuse for homosexuality. And for you all to make people think there's an excuse talking foolishness about it's normal is a disgrace. Thank you.
Hold on. So the question then, Mr. Raquel.
Yeah, so there's this idea, and this comes up a lot, right, that people choose this lifestyle. And when we think about gender orientation or sexual orientation being a part of a continuum, and, you know, I'm talking about it being normal, I'm wondering if you can think for yourself when you chose to be straight.
And, you know, this is where I think, Dr. What?
Yeah. Well, no, and I think that Mr. Raquel did a great job of explaining it, and this is actually something that many of us don't ever we don't talk about this. It's something we weren't raised to think about. It is different. I think it is important to note that more and more studies are showing biological basis for homosexuality, so it's not a choice, you know, and I know that several references have been made, and I know my friends that I grew up with who are now gay, you know, and they know, and there's, you know, they have different ways about them, and that's okay. Just like, you know, like I've always been a tomboy. I ride horses and I drive trucks, and, you know, there's always going to be these differences that we have. And I think what's important is that I want to acknowledge the biological basis, but also this is something that is happening in society, and this is something that is important. This is something that is greatly affecting not only our adult generations, but also our young generations as well. And we're just losing too many people unnecessarily, and that's not helpful. So really, this is really in the approach of everything that we look at on the show with Mental Health Matters is really just asking for some space, some understanding and respect for all of the people in the community, right? We have a lot of other cultures that come in that, you know, and we respect and appreciate what goes on there, but looking especially at this, which is greatly impacting the Caymanians in particular, to make sure that all of us, and there's not many of us anymore, fewer of us all the time, to make sure that we are embracing everyone and looking after everyone, and just asking people to ask more questions and get to know everyone, and begin to get to a level of being able to understand things that are often scary and things that we as Caymanians were taught not to talk about. You know, we've done this with, as I said, with gender violence and with mental illness. Now we're asking you to look at this with sexuality as well, because this is a big factor of who we are.
Yeah. I mean, for me, you know, he did say if a family's out there and the gay parade, you know, goes on, what if the child asks? Tell the child the truth. Mm-hmm. You know, learn the facts correctly and tell the child the truth. It's time that we stop hiding things and brushing things under the carpet. If your child goes out to the normal carnivals and see what's going on and you ask, what's that? What are you going to say to them? Is that the norm?
Yeah, and I just want to comment on my comment. Like, I hear this all the time when we, you know, hear people with maybe some different views, and they're asking, like, you know, this is a lifestyle choice. And I really do think, flip that question on yourself. When did you choose your sexual orientation? And the answer is never. I just sort of knew, right? Like, no one just kind of made this conscious choice. It's a very deeply felt sense. Mm-hmm. And when we realize that that's true for ourselves, it starts to sort of open that idea that this is true for other people too. Nobody kind of woke up one day and said, I'm going to choose this. This is often an internal, deeply felt sense of being a particular way, being attracted to certain people. And again, it's all normal.
Well, perhaps these are continuing discussions that we have. I'm always reminded that they say, you know, education is empowering, but a little learning is a dangerous thing. At times we don't understand some things, and perhaps we don't realize that we don't know what we don't know. That's the only thing we know. Right? Well, it's always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure to
I just want to say to the community in general, you know, I know it's a struggle out there because I've been there, done that. I know what people are going through out there because I've been there and done that. But the main thing I will say to people, especially from the LGBTQ plus community, be yourself. Try and be as true to yourself as you can. I'm not saying that it's an easy task coming out and being who you are. It varies on various different levels. Mm-hmm. For me, it was okay because I was working to support myself, and I got into the point where I didn't really care what anybody thought because I weren't living off anyone. And I know it's different if you're home and you need the support of your family. It varies in different ways. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, try to be as strong as you can. Try to find help if you're finding yourself in depression and that sort of stuff. Seek help because you don't want it to go to the point where you're going to try and harm yourself. And I almost been there myself, which is why I left. And like I was saying earlier, you should not have to leave your birth home to be who you are. Mm-hmm. And again, this is why it's so important that we have outlets for these people to come to. And this is why it's so important that we're fighting so hard this year to get a facility that people will know exactly where to come to when they need assistance.
Well, thanks very much for coming on, Raquel and Ms. Cheetah. Any closing thoughts, Dr. Warden?
How can people sign up for the parade? And then I got something else.
All the packages and so forth is on Events Pro, so that's www.eventspro.ky. Just click on July, and we're right down at the bottom at the 30th, and all the information is there. You could either go to her website, which is www.clgbtqf.com. So just remember LGBTQ with C for Cayman in front, F for Foundation at the end, and you're good to go from there. If not, you can give me a call on 526-1001.
Awesome. Because I think that will be great for anyone who's listening today. But I just say that anyone that is out here that has more questions, our information will be up on the website. And then you're able to contact us if you have any questions. Ms. Raquel is over at Infinite Mind Care and does great work over there. I know that Billy Bryan from Colors Cayman has, I think, compiled a list of therapists that are willing, that are open to LGBT and that were gender affirmative. But definitely having someone that's well-versed in that area can make a world of difference. So I'd say definitely reach out if you have any questions. But yeah, there's always help available. We've got free counseling available at the Counseling Center at 949-8789. Alex Panton Foundation offers support groups. For under 18s, it's online. And for over 18 to 30-year-olds, we have it at Parcel 110 on Saturdays. So check out their website, Facebook or Instagram for more information on the support groups. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much. And Ms. Raquel, thanks again as well, Ms. Cheetah. I'm going to pause and take a break and come back. Help me to host and enjoy the rest of the hour as a good friend. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments from July 11th to 16th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drportercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That is 946-9020.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Did you know you must ensure all utensils are washed with detergent and rinsed with hot water if they make contact with flood water? For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
For the month of July, the Needs Assessment Unit will hold their district visits as follows. Friday, July 1st, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the West Bay Public Library. Friday, 8th July at the East End Civic Center. From 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., NAU will be serving clients from East End, and from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., they will serve clients from North Side. Friday, 15th July, the Needs Assessment Unit will be in Bodentown from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Bodentown Public Library. And on Friday, 22nd July, NAU will hold a district visit in West Bay from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the West Bay Public Library. Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Ransomware, DDoS, malware, phishing. If you don't know what those mean, you're not alone. But if you aren't protected against those cybersecurity attacks, then your business is at risk. Don't leave your data or your business vulnerable. Get Digicel Business Protect. Simpler, smarter cybersecurity. Visit our website, www.digicelbusiness.com, to request a callback or call us now on 623-2499.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecasts, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman, 89.9 FM.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
For the record. For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you. For the record. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM for Cayman's Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record. Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to my good friend Stephanie Dos Santos for sitting with us, hosting the show for the rest of the afternoon with us. How about that?
I love it. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And I think I as I speak to you, I think to other friends, and one in particular, where if you're surrounded with good people, you're in excellent company. Even if you can't be physically present, perhaps. The memory of them, the recollection of the interactions and the like, can put you in a good space. A fellow called me yesterday. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing, because his words have helped me through the day. He's someone that I respect greatly, not just because of his intellect, but because of the acumen, the approach that he has to life, the sense of fairness and the sense of dedication to community. And he said, when you look at people and you know when they're good people, So good to be with good people, right?
Thank you. Yes, indeed, it is.
As I was still thinking of our panel discussion just then, I think tolerance, acceptance, and above all, love. That sense of wholesome love that we should have for others. We focus on the romantic love, for instance, but we don't see the importance of love, and that love informs our interaction. That love helps us to know when we offer ourselves to be of service. You look at the parent and the child, and there's no question when that love is evident, how much better that family unit is, how much happier, and the joys that they get. We see when it's absent, but where's that love that we have for each other, for our fellow, individual?
Well, I believe that the universe is expansion, or God is expansion. So we're here to learn and expand our consciousness. So hopefully we can tune into unconditional love, because we know so well what it is to be conditional. And even if we look at each one of us, we realize that we are being conditional with ourselves. I mean by that, we're okay to be with ourselves when we feel good, when we feel happy. But as soon as we feel uncomfortable or challenged or agitated, we don't want to be with ourselves. We tend to want to override that with positivity or put that under the rug by distracting ourselves with a movie or whatever other distraction.
Okay. There are some of us that would say we're very positive, we're very optimistic, and then something happens and we feel like a little bit down, we beat ourselves.
Well, that's a very conditional way to be with yourself.
Right.
Because being unconditional is not just when everything is happy and fine and smooth and easy. Yeah. It's also by understanding, okay, I'm feeling a challenging emotion here, whatever is jealousy or envy or greed or anger. These emotions are also part of our internal guidance system. So every emotion, including those negative ones, are going to be there to help you tune into your own alignment. And the purpose of that is for us to reach a level where we feel emotionally safe within ourselves, therefore with others as well.
As I listen to you, I'm thinking of the lyrics of Bob Marley that talked about you're running, but you can't run away from yourself. Yeah. We have this thing where we are at times want to get away from who we are. Where something's happening and we're not able to embrace it, to deal with it. We can run and hide from others as best as we can, but we're always within ourselves, we're always within our minds. So that level of being unconditional, our relations, our love, or even our offers to do something, people will see it as, well, what do you want now? There's some ulterior motive. Can we get to a space where we're just doing something unconditionally, there's no strings attached, as it were?
Well, it all starts with ourselves, right? Because you cannot give what you don't have. So if you're not aware of it or not, of yourself and the relationship you have with yourself, if it's conditional, you'll be conditional with other people. You will want to be around them, but on your terms. So that's why to go back to what you said, yes, that's kind of like a normal logic that we end up automatically thinking, okay, that person just gave me this. What is it that he or she wants?
And we come to expect that. We even have, sadly, as I was observing, more and more of our behaviors. If we take our phones or our association with certain things trigger within us certain behaviors. Your phone chime may sound just like everybody else's, and even though you know it's not your phone, everybody looks at it. So we see how easily we get conditioned to certain stimuli, but that level of loving someone that's conditional, this person provides this or this. We even do it to ourselves then. We love ourselves, we don't have that unconditional love for ourselves. How can that be?
Because we're running away from our negative emotions. We're running away from it. So when you know that when you're angry, it sends you a message that you are feeling powerless. If you know that jealousy, it's because it's a calling to reinforce the connection with that very thing or very person that you're scared of losing, then we start to be able to sit with ourselves and with how we truly feel. Because if we keep rejecting the discomfort and so on, this is exactly the type of connection we're going to have with other people. Right?
What we have with ourselves, we would have the same for
or because we refuse to be with our discomfort, it's going to become very challenging to be around that friend that is feeling uncomfortable, especially if it does resonate in you. You will not want to be there because it's going to reflect that very emotion that you spend your life running away from.
You can feel that thing in that person.
Yeah.
So it resonates with you.
That's why I say God or the universe is expansion. Because whatever you reject about yourself, it carries a vibratory signature and it's going to be triggered into your environment through your relationships.
Right. We're speaking to Stephanie Dos Santos, and the phone lines are available if you want. You know, one of the great things about chatting with you, get a chance to think, to explore, to understand, at least to be introduced to different thought processes. And in the business world, some would talk about the phrase, thought leadership. But I think that we appreciate how important it is to think, to engage, and to be able to interact with others. That gives us a chance to question, why do we think this thing? Why is this belief system important to us? I should have to ask then that we look at negativity as a bad thing, negative emotions. We're positive, we're optimistic, you have to always be that. And yet, when that person is in that space that we say, oh, you're so negative, why is it then that negative have to be the opposite of positive? Positive is good, so therefore negative is bad?
Well, we live in a world where it's dualities, there's polarities, there's contrast. So you're always going to have those extremes. And I believe that our mission to all of us is to embrace the whole spectrum, including that negativity, to see the beauty and some of the messages and where it's redirecting us towards sometimes.
A friend of mine made me realize not long ago, escapism. We try to get away, from certain things from ourselves. We flee from this situation because of, what is happening then. And we do it sometimes unconsciously. We don't understand. And then consciously we say, you know what, I just need to take a 5 and we leave. How does that play into this whole notion to escape?
Well, we try to escape because very early on you got the unconscious message that when you're experiencing certain emotion, it equals danger. So I made a video not long ago about anger. So when you're a child and you're being angry, so now that you understand that anger is a sense of powerlessness, you could have a very different approach to it. But like me and many people, when we got angry when as a child, it's get in your room and you get out only when you're calm. So this will send 2 messages in the unconscious mind of the child. One is when you're angry, you're not worthy of love. And second, when you're angry, too bad for you, you're on your own. So then you've got that number one fear for humans that gets triggered, which is isolation. So this is how you grow up thinking, like knowing inside of you that if you experience some of those emotions, that's not good for you because it means isolation. And deep down, it equals to death, basically. Because we need one another. We are a relationally dependent species.
Yeah. Connectivity, interaction with another person is important. We can, have a particular pet, for instance, that may help us. We may even have a hobby. We may enjoy fishing or reading. But you're saying that people need people?
Absolutely. We do need one another. I know when I do the workshop or even see people one-on-one, when they say, well, actually, you know what, I don't need anyone. It's like, let's talk about that. Because it is partially true, but it's not the entire truth about who you are.
Okay.
Because you cannot escape the fact that we do need one another.
There are some ones that seemingly, and they will say when they're comfortable, that they're not good by themselves. They don't want to be alone. They don't like to be alone for different reasons. They prefer a group setting. They prefer, an interaction with at least one other person. Is that person now coming to understand that, okay, I understand how that we're relationally dependent. Some of us will see that person and go, man, you're needy. You need to be around people all the time. Why is it that we see that as a negative thing, a bad thing, when people need people and want people?
Well, if you're the type of person that grew up with your needs not met, it's going to be very challenging for you again to be in front of someone that has needs and is not afraid of expressing them.
But that's vulnerability, right? I mean, you open yourself up to someone else. You're sharing this thing. It may not be your deepest, darkest secrets, but it's that thing that's important to you. And is that then how you get love, by being vulnerable, by opening yourself up to...
Yeah. I mean, I've got an example. Last Saturday I went to Hurley's, and the girl at the counter, you could see she was at that to cry. Mm. And I looked at her and I said, oh, it doesn't look like you're having a good start of the day, sweetie. Mm. And you could see she was really close. And I said, can I give you a hug? And she's like, yes, please. I went around, gave her a hug, and then her face lit up, and she started expressing what was going on. So, you're right. It's about opening to vulnerability.
Right. But to you and to the lady, I give you props, much credit. But even in today's environment, let me ask, normally people will not do that. And when they do it, others will look and go, something's wrong with them, because we're not willing to be as emotionally connected.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter, what other people think, right? I mean, you do it because it feels right to you.
Okay. Well, let me ask you to help me then, because I've seen that, I've tried it out. Is it that when you notice that and you offer, as you did, a very loving, kind, respectful, non-judgmental, and knowing you, that was probably just the kindest, gentlest, most wonderful thing that you've done, and you thankfully were received. But is it how you approach the person? Is it what you say? Do you, as an individual, when you see that, need to be mindful that let me make sure that my response to this person is appropriate and properly timed and the like?
I think we can all connect to one day going to work and not really wanting to be there at all.
Not today, right?
No. And just feeling like crap and being at, really close to cry. And so I just felt compassion for her. I could understand that she just did not want and probably did not need to be there at that time. Yeah.
There were other things in her life.
She needed to be, in her own space and doing whatever she needed to do, but not trying to pretend to smile to people, because she reached a point she could not even smile. She could not even fake it. Yeah.
And then many of us would say, fake it till you make it. Not a phrase that I particularly like, but we understand it. You said hug. Let me ask about that for a bit. I think to teachers specifically, and one who shared with me again recently, when she first started teaching 1,000 years ago, that was customary. You could hug a child. The child played in the playground and fell, and nothing major happened, but the child started to cry, and you just hugged the child. And when the parent came, that was a day when parents actually picked her up from school, and you told her, how did the child do, and you told about it, and that was okay. And she says, fast forward to today, that you can't hug a child, you can't talk to the child, you can't touch the child, there's no interaction, there's potential for lawsuits and all these things. So we're getting away from this human dynamic.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're upset, you need that connection, even if you're angry, or at that moment, that woman, for example, she was alone. She was alone in her mind. She was isolated from everything and everyone. So the thing that we need to do is recreate that connection, so the person doesn't feel like she's alone, and that nobody is hearing, feeling, and seeing her.
Yeah, you provide comfort. I mean, we think to the parent, to the child. The parent sometimes will come and give the child a hug, But in some households, maybe in some cultures, just perhaps some people, that level of physical engagement and closeness isn't evident, right? Even spouses with each other, we probably heard stories where just like you said, there's a bad day, there's something happening in life, and all the other person needs, and may even ask, or hey, can I just have a hug? Yeah. Or do you want a hug? When that is asked and not given, or when it's obvious that is what should be, like in your instance, and it's not offered, for those who listen, through the window on the other side of the thing is the famous Ray Banker preparing for a See What I Say. Ray, maybe we'll bring him into the studio, offering you a dynamic. You see how he just changed everything? He just has a face for radio, my friends.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. As we speak to Ms. Stephanie Dos Santos, and I was asking about hug and the need for physical interaction.
Well, I think it's good to ask.
Yeah.
I will always ask. Even my friend, they've got children. I will always ask every time that I will see them, can I give you a hug? I will ask. It's not our place to impose ourselves on other people's personal space as well. Yeah. So lots of people will not. They're asking for hugs, right? They will say they will not say anything. That's why I ask, if I feel that someone is disconnected.
Yeah. There are those of us who are huggers, as it were, some of us who are learning to be, and it's nothing more than their way of saying, hey, life is good, embrace life, and this is what reminds you of the physical connectiveness. Yeah. But there are some that are stoic, some that...
Well, if you're not a hugger, not a touchy person, you can express yourself verbally and with your words have a similar impact.
But even with words, we'll find that someone who says something, to someone that is complimentary, that is a wonderful sort of gesture at saying, hey, this is something nice that I recognize, this is something to uplift you. Either that person that is said to may, what do you want now? Or others listening in today's world will infer certain things.
Too bad. I'm not saying, we should reach a point when we don't care of other people's opinion, because the reality is we actually do care to some extent. It's just to which extent.
Yeah. Maybe more than what we even acknowledge to ourselves. We care about what that person's view, that approval, that validation.
Well, very often it's if we care too much, and we don't want to admit to ourselves that we care that much about what other people think about us. It's very often a sign of lack of boundaries. So boundaries, again, it's everything that defines you. So it's required for you to dive into what is it that defines me? Who is it that I am?
Just like the boundaries may define various parcels of land, boundaries should define our own space and our relations.
And our personal truth. It's everything that is sterling, defines sterling. It's the things that you like, the things that you don't like. It's your thoughts, your emotions.
Is it
but if we worry too much about what other people think, to the extent that we never know and we end up being people pleaser, well, it's because we grew up with parents very often invalidating how we felt. So as a child, you're just there trying to have a guess of what will be best, to make the other person happy, so that other person can give you the sense of validation that you're seeking.
As you shared that, I'm thinking of the comment I heard from someone, said, be careful what you accept from people, because then you teach them, how to treat you. And if we... that's boundaries. All right, what about if I can? We'll go to our news break. When we come back, this idea of how we define ourselves and how others define us. How do maybe we can talk about that. Is it our view of ourselves the same as others may have? And what's the implications of it? Maybe talk about that.
Of course.
All right, the phone lines are open, 949-8837, or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman on Twitter. For the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins. The Cayman Islands Customs and Border Control can confirm that a member of staff has been arrested and that the arrest is in relation to an ongoing police investigation. In international news, Ukraine says it is investigating more than 21,000 war crimes and crimes of aggression allegedly committed by Russia since the start of its invasion. Prosecutor General Irina Venediktova told the BBC she was receiving reports of between 200 to 300 war crimes a day. She admitted that many trials would be held in absentia, but stressed that it was a question of justice to continue with the prosecutions. Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th. It denies all war crime allegations. A granite monument in the U.S. state of Georgia has been demolished for safety reasons after being damaged in a blast. An explosion early on Wednesday reduced one of the slabs of the Georgia Guidestones to rubble. CCTV footage showed a car leaving the scene, and authorities are investigating. Despite being built in 1980, the monument has been nicknamed America's Stonehenge, a reference to the prehistoric landmark in the UK. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins. For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
We wanna go and dally.
Backyard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine. 7 Mile Beach might have changed, but Backyard is bringing it back. True Caribbean food in the heart of 7 Mile, just like Mama's home cooking. Brown stew snapper, Cayman-style beef, jerk chicken, turtle stew, and the delicious list goes on. Dine in, take out, or order with the Bento app. Backyard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine, 269 West Bay Road, or call 746-4603. Backyard, daily lunch specials, and the one-of-a-kind Fun Day Sunday brunch.
Backyard.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks to Stephanie Dos Santos for coming and keeping her company and enjoying, perhaps the conversation with you. I was just asking as we went into the break. We have a view of ourselves, and perhaps we see how we are sort of define ourselves. And then others may have another view. For some, as an example, I'm mindful of what's the scripture talk about. Don't think too highly of yourself. But there's some who have a low image and view and perspective of themselves relative to friends, family, or co-workers and the like. And then there's some where they think more highly of themselves relative to what others, sort of see. What is it? Know me, but come live with me. Is that sort of mixed, or different view between how you perceive yourself and how you perceive others? How does that?
That's an interesting question. Well, from the moment that you can really define yourself. Mm-hmm. I mean, anyway, it doesn't matter, because if there's 10 people around you, these 10 people will have 10 different perceptions of who you are. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's why what's important is to know everything, know things about you. And if you don't know, you just have to listen to your emotions. So if you're in this new group and someone is saying something and you're finding your body suddenly reacting, responding by being tense, and very often when we feel out of control, it's like on the solar plexus, it feels as if your heart just dropped there. This is a sign for you to listen to it. Because if you stay with yourself a little bit, you will realize that actually what this person just said, I found that offensive or disrespectful. Mm-hmm. And from the moment that you know that message, what it's telling you, it's your responsibility to communicate that and to hold that boundary, especially if you have to spend more time with that person around you.
Yeah, well, we tend to gravitate to the things we like or the people we like because of that connection. We feel good, we feel safe, and then sometimes we have to endure in our minds, suffer through. We use different phrases, this particular occasion, this particular person, or this thing. And I want to maybe come back to that before we take this caller and maybe ask about that. We're speaking to Ms. Stephanie Dos Santos. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hey, good afternoon again, Dwayne.
Hey, welcome back again, man. How are you?
Okay. And good afternoon to your guest, Ms. Dos Santos.
Hello.
Au revoir.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Good afternoon, man. Hey, thank you so much for sharing.
No, I heard you all speaking just now, and you all were saying that we need people in our lives.
Right.
Which is very true. I asked, well, I'll ask you both a question.
Okay.
And the listening public. All right, if you had all the money in the world, you had all the banks in the world, all the cars, all the boats, all the houses, all were yours. And you woke up one morning and there was no one else in the world, just you yourself. Life would be very boring.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks very much. And
well, yeah, that's why lots of people make their life purpose to have lots of money.
Yep.
But you see, this takes care of some physical need that we may have.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 3 pillars to a happy and healthy life, right? It's body, mind, and soul.
Mm-hmm.
So we know what it takes to have a healthy body. You're going to eat healthy and you're going to practice some exercise.
Mm-hmm.
For a healthy mind, it's to become aware of the impact your thoughts have on your physical body. And you can practice meditation, for example. But when you think of a healthy soul, just defining soul, very often it's something that we cannot, it's hard to put words on it because it's something that we cannot see and we cannot touch. And emotions are the same. And so soul health will be emotional health. That's why you say sometimes I feel it in my guts or I feel it in my heart.
Mm.
So there's that 3rd pillar that we've been addressing for centuries. And I believe we're on the verge of a new era now where we are actually addressing soul health, which is emotional health. And we understand that if there's the mental illnesses, I should say emotional illnesses through the roof, it's because we are realizing how conditional love was in regards to our own emotions. And this is what we got taught. It's the same for me, right? Admitting that I was jealous of my sister, it's ugly. I could not say that. Being angry, it's like I cannot be angry because I'm suddenly isolated.
Interesting. Let's take this call. I want to ask you this, but let's read this call. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Yes, good afternoon.
How are you, sir?
Good. And you?
Very blessed and thankful, man.
Yeah, I like the conversation. I've been doing a lot of thinking and research with regards to the whole concept of the individual, as I normally have taken a sociological approach to defining and measuring people, because the question is always how much of an influence does a society have on creating what we consider to be ourselves, which sometimes is referred to as the socialized I. And sometimes, we see people and we say this is the good state of life to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And that is measured also by very ethnocentric definitions sometimes. It's hard when we have authority and when we have hierarchy in terms of people's values and performances for us to really be able to measure what we consider to be the balanced individual against anything else but what has already been produced and institutionalized as the standards. And we always go back to the whole idea of the noble savage and the idea of Robinson Crusoe. And even if we go to the fall in the Bible, I mean, it tells us something very important there. I don't know if a lot of people notice, but that is a very philosophical beginning, because it's talking about the problems that man encounters when he encounters civilization. And that is always the point, that the civilization is going to win, because the civilization is the authority, and the individual will have to be molded or will have to submit to the norms and regulations of the society, which is completely opposite if we would think about what would happen if man was more in tune with nature. And I find that a very interesting discussion, because we could say, well, we wouldn't be anyone without that socialization process that defines us, which comes through the primary socialization, which means in the domestic realm, the mother has so much of an influence on most of us. And we always, in order to locate that self, we're always looking outside ourselves, looking at other people and saying, this is who I am. So it's that problem we have when we identify with people. We might not actually be doing the right thing, although the society is saying it's the right thing. So that's a very interesting philosophical point of view. And although the people in psychology try to manage it, they're managing it normally from the point of view of what they consider to be normality. And therefore, when we treat people, what we're doing is treating them to be more normal, which is to be more like members of the society. And when we're already living in the world, which seems to me to be of so much confusion and discord, that it's hard now to find what the real models should be. I would be interesting to hear what the lady has to say about what standards are we using or could best use to create that kind of ideal sense of a person. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, well, he talked about few good points there. And it's true that in the society that we're living, it's about format, like being conformed to the format. That's why we don't like to be around angry people. We don't know how to deal with it, because we have learned to repress that from ourselves. So he also mentioned about authority. We need to understand that we can claim back our own authority of who we are.
Regain your power.
Yeah. And I believe this is the movement that's going on right now. And this is also what I'm willing to do, what I'm doing with my job. It's to really help people tuning into their inner truth. Because we all come into the socialization process is really damaging, because you understand as a kid that some aspect of who you are okay and some are not acceptable. And this is how we end up being kind of like copies, of one another. But from the moment that we can say, well, actually, there's more to me than that, and I'm going to dare speaking my truth, even if I'm not popular, even if I'm losing some people. But by doing that, you will find yourself tuning into your truth, therefore your power, then your own authority. And this is how you can inspire others around you as well to do the same, to say, hey, it's okay. You don't have to go in and isolate when you're angry. Let me be with you.
And that's it, that isolation, that time when you're sent to your room, or you're in the school, you go to the principal, or you're elsewhere. That anger, we don't embrace it. We don't see the expression of it. All right, we got a final break to take. When we come back, can I ask more about what you shared, power versus the individual and individualism? Let me see if I can frame a good question.
Yeah,
Stay tuned for Talk Today.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, X-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
I can help keep bad germs away by the things I do every day.
Germs happen. Schools, cruise ships, public bathrooms, socially acceptable petri dishes. Fighting germs now made easier with Sherwin-Williams Insulating Acrylic Paint featuring zero VOC interior air sanitizing and purifying. Zero VOC paint improves your home and business air quality and fights COVID germs with special antimicrobial technology. One paint coating is good for up to 2 years of protection.
I can help keep bad germs away by the things I do every day.
Sherwin-Williams, 150 years strong. TCE Paint Shop has 3 locations to better serve you. Cox Lumber locations and the original store at 27 Godfrey Nixon Way, 943-0565.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Esports in the Cayman Islands just got a major upgrade. That's right, NetGeeks Media is proud to present Gamers Bay 6. This is July 30th to 31st, 2022.
Compete head-to-head for over $10,000 on the PlayStation 5 in titles such as Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, and FIFA 2022, utilizing our new gaming monitors.
Additional competitive titles include Smash Bros. Ultimate for the Switch, as well as Naruto Storm 4 for the PS4.
Oh, and did we mention keyboard and mouse can now also be used?
Back and better than ever. It's all going down July 30th to 31st, 2022 at the John Gray Gymnasium.
Meet international YouTube influencers Windy Girk and Beck Brojack. Let the world see the power of Cayman's competitors.
Visit GamersBayCayman.com to purchase spectator tickets, view schedules and times, purchase competitors' passes, as well as view the rules of each tournament.
Proudly sponsored by
Pepsi, Enterprise Cayman, Department of Tourism, C3 Pure Fiber, Radio Cayman, K Gadgets, Youth Services Unit, Office Supply, Cellular Cayman, Dolphin Discovery, The Matrix, and the Department of Education.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And in the studio, Ms. Stephanie Dos Santos. And I appreciate, as the caller just shared, this is a discussion that hopefully will get more of us to start to think deeply. You said something that reminded me of saying, to thine own self be true. And many of us, I would even say myself, we're not always true to ourselves, because that expressiveness that we may believe that we have or want, we're going to be judged, condemned. We don't get the validation that we want, so we sort of restrain ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, if you say I'm independent, it's and I don't need anyone. Okay, so this will be partially the truth of who you are. But if you say, well, I'm independent and I really don't need anyone, and you really believe this is you, you're probably unaware that there's an aspect of you that actually needs one another. because that's the essence, the essence of being human.
Yeah.
We do need one another. So if, even if you think I'm the most independent person, look, I can prove it. I've been doing that on my own for that many years. The reality is that if you dare opening up to vulnerability, you will understand and you'll be able to see and feel that there's a part of you that craves the connection with other people.
But we are sometimes, and I'll use the word afraid is not courageous, let me put it that way. We are afraid sometimes to explore that, to pursue that thing that gives you what you know is truly fulfilling because of different reasons, right? And, it's a relationship, it's a career change, it's maybe a physical location change.
But on that case, we all been into a situation, let's say the partnership, where we know that person we should not go there, right? And there's an other side of us that says, go for it. Very often we're going to dismiss one aspect of ourselves to the benefit of the other. And this is how you're going to promote within yourself an environment where you cannot trust yourself. Because the reality is there's two sides inside of you. One that wants to go with that person and the other one that says, hey, you better not to. And very often it's like, oh, let me go. But if we pause and we actually sit with the two aspects, one that says, don't go there. And it's like, okay, why is that? And you keep asking why to every answer until you get to the end of the road. And you do the same for the other side. It's like, okay, I want to go with that person, but why? Well, it's magnetic, there's something, okay, but the other side can tell that person is not emotionally available, for example, therefore I'm going to go into a war with that person. And this is how, by doing this, you can prevent yourself from going into that potentially toxic relationship to address a wound that was there in your consciousness way before, which is that very part that makes you want to go towards that person.
Fill that particular void.
Yeah.
All right. We do have a caller.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's take another. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon.
Hey, General. Good afternoon, man. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, and good afternoon to the lady as well.
Good afternoon to you too.
Thank you. I don't want to go quite opposite of what you're saying, but the last caller, I think it's a friend of mine, Dr. Frank.
Yes, sir.
He was drifting so much in the right direction. I think maybe he didn't have enough time to really get to the core of what he was trying to say. But however, like I said, I'm not going to put any negative things towards the lady. But on Radio came on today, I will say, if you want to see what reality is about the whole situation that we're talking about, just go on YouTube and listen to Dr. Charles Stanley for 30 minutes at no cost. It doesn't cost you anything except a few minutes of your time. Then we will understand what this situation is about. So many people are suffering from rejection. So many demonic things that, you're right when you said negative and positive, because the demons here are taking so much advantage of the people. In making a long story short, if we are to accomplish something, we need to accomplish it on top of our knees. That's where we will accomplish things. Mankind, it's almost a failure. So I will say, if you got time, just go on your YouTube and listen to Dr. Charles Stanley and see what you think about it, and then we'll talk about it another time. But thank you so much for listening to me, and thanks for Dr. Frank as well. So have a good evening. Thank you so much.
And to you, sir. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks.
And I'm glad, Stephanie, that you would join us, because I think more and more as we have these discussions, the more and more we realize that many of us are facing similar things. Something that you shared, and if you don't mind, I want to repeat it. You said, we're like wounded kids,
in adult
bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's the reality of things, because everything that we don't address as a child, the challenges that we encounter in our adult life, is there for you to reunite with that aspect of yourself that you have left aside when you were a child. And this is that very part that gets triggered in relationships.
So and that cycle then continues.
Yeah, until you actually address what's going on. So yeah, he said the word of, he mentioned rejection. I mean, we know it's not nice to feel rejected, right? It's uncomfortable. And you can see that as being redirected in some ways. So if I'm being rejected to, let's say, I'm applying for that job and I'm being rejected, I mean, it's not a nice feeling. You start doubting yourself, your confidence and your skills and so on. But it happened. There's a divine timing to everything. And instead of placing ourselves as victims, sometimes it's going to redirect us towards something else. And we're not going to understand why right now, but we're going to be meeting these and that people that is actually going to propel us even further than what we all imagined in the first place. But we have to embrace it, though, because if we put resistance to it and say, well, this is where I wanted to go, I don't want to be here, and missing out on those amazing opportunities there, well, you're blocking yourself.
Yeah. My mother always says, not every disappointment is a misfortune, right? So as you said, you apply for a job and you're rejected. You feel that, but that may be, as you said, a divine appointment. This isn't, something else is better for you down the road. Then how do we, as I look at the time, and I always got to be mindful, because chatting with you, we can get into so much, right? When I look at where we are, we want people to be
happy.
Happy, okay.
This is the purpose of life. Everything that you're doing, it's to create joy in your life. So that's why I got this workshop there, and I'm very happy to talk with people about what I've learned and my experiences as well, because it does work.
So your next workshop is on the 20th?
Yes, it's the 20th at 7 p.m. at Parcel 110.
And what is it, the discussion for that workshop? What's the...
Well, it's going to be definitely on the relationship with yourself, how to create the best relationship with yourself, therefore others. And so it's for couples and singles as well. It's open to everyone. And you'll be getting some precious insight on your own consciousness.
I guess we have to love ourselves before we can love others, huh?
Yeah, but that's our mission here, right?
All right. And if people want more information, if they want to sign up, what's the best way?
You can send me a WhatsApp message on 329-8674, or go on Facebook or Instagram to the page DNA Introspection.
All right. Stephanie Dos Santos. Thank you so much, man.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure. I learn a lot, and I appreciate you. Remind me, of something that is important. So thank you very much. All right. Friday is tomorrow, is it not? Already?
Tomorrow, Friday, yeah.
Wow. Well, my day plans and promises to start with a wonderful company. So hopefully it'll continue. But we want others to start their day off with Mr. Art in the morning for the record, and then come back for Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. We've got a couple of interesting discussions on the cards for us tomorrow. So hopefully it's going to be exciting, including my good friend, Ms. Rhonda, will end us up for the rest of the program. So it's going to be good. Thank you, Ms. Stephanie, for being a part of it.
You're welcome. Thank you as well.
Until tomorrow, sit and contemplate, but be pensive, but be productive. And above all, be blessed. Until tomorrow.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
26 years.
3 beloved isles.
1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart.
The soul.